Hey there, and thank you for joining me on the Retro Game Couch. And in today's video we're going to check out the Currah Speech 64, which is a speech synthesizer cartridge for the Commodore 64, which lets your Commodore 64 speak. It currently doesn't work. It works for a few minutes and then it hangs, so we need to address that first, but then we're going to check it out. So, dude, I'm doing my intro, come on.
The Currah Speech 64, which came out in 1983 and is also sometimes referred to as the voice messenger, is pretty unique compared to other speech synthesizers of the era. Instead of using a preset vocabulary, it could do actual text-to-speech using allophones, 58 of them to be exact. Allophones in short are a set of possible sounds in, for example, a spoken language, which can then be used to produce words. The Currah Speech 64 does not use the Commodore 64's SID chip for sound or the C64's memory. Instead, the cartridge contains a General Instruments SP0256-AL2 speech processor and dedicated memory. There was also a version available for the Spectrum computer called the Currah MicroSpeech. On that system there is a list of games that support in-game speech using the Currah MicroSpeech. As far as I know, no Commodore 64 games were released that could do the same.
I've been poking around at this cartridge for a while, but I don't think there is a non-destructive way to get into it. There is no screw anywhere. I think it's glued shut. I've tried brute force, but it's not coming apart. So sadly, I'm going to have to Dremel this open. Taking a closer look, my best bet is probably to first replace these two capacitors. They're 10 microfarad 25 volts. I have 10 microfarad 50 volts, so let's desolder these and replace them. So I've put everything back together with some duct tape for now, and I've been using it in the C64 for about 15 minutes now, and before it would have crashed by now, and it's working just fine. So replacing the caps certainly fixed this cartridge. As you probably have noticed, there's a plug here on the side of this cartridge, and you're actually supposed to plug this into the AV port of your C64. Yes, the video output port of your C64. Back in the day when this came out, most people use the RF port to connect their C64 to a television set, so the AV port was free. And the AV port has pin 5, which is labeled as audio in. And pin 5 is connected to pin 26 of the SID chip and then routed back to the output of the Commodore 64. I obviously want to use the AV port of my C64, so I had to come up with some kind of converter. So I made a converter that converts this DIN plug to an RCA jack. This was the proof of concept, which simply connects pin 5 to the inner side of the RCA and pin 2, which is ground, to the outside of the RCA plug. And this produced sound. So then I made the deluxe version, which is the exact same thing in a nicer box, and it adds a second RCA plug, which just loops to the other one, which creates stereo. I think it looks really nice. Let's hook everything up and see if we can make our C64 talk. Now before we continue, I just want to mention the little LCD screen that I've been using for the past few days on my workbench, which has been awesome. It is a screen by Wimaxit. They send it to me for review. It has a metal housing, which is really nice. But the cool thing about this, me being a retro guy, it has all the retro inputs that I need. So it has VGA, which does the weird 720 by 400 DOS resolution. I checked that. It has HDMI, it has composite in, it has stereo RCA inputs for sound, a USB port and a BNC connector. So all the inputs you will ever need. Now I can almost hear you scream, but it's 16:9, so the aspect ratio is wrong. Hold on. Auto 4:3. There we go. So with the cartridge inserted, you need to type the word in it to start using it.
Return.
From this point on, the Currah will dictate every key that you press. So
S-A-Y. Lead.
That's pretty annoying. So you can turn it off by typing K off.
Return.
And now it won't do that anymore. If you want to turn it on again, you can by typing K on, which is probably short for keyboard on.
Lead.
Pretty annoying.
Cable
Off.
return.
To have the Currah say things, you can use the say command, like this. Say, hello there.
Hello here.
And you will notice that it will not pronounce everything like you think that it will pronounce it. But we can tweak that. The say command takes one other parameter optionally, which is the type of voice. So if I say 0 hello,
Hello.
it sounds very dark. But if I say 1 hello,
Hello.
it will go back to the default voice. But if you omit that, it will use 1.
Hello. Hello.
That's the same. Now again, sometimes it won't pronounce things like you think it would. So if I type, say, I am sorry,
I am sorry.
it'll say, I am sorry. And we can fix that by saying exactly which sample the Currah needs to use for that part of your sentence. So if we say sorry, then it should sound like,
I am sorry.
now it says I am sorry, and that is because it doesn't know that sore and e are one word, and we can fix that by changing it to sore e between the brackets.
I am sorry.
I am sorry. So you can do some pretty interesting things by using the correct tone samples and creating words that way. Driving home for Christmas.
Driving home for Christmas.
That's pretty okay. Oh, but it says driving. So let's try to make it say driving. Driving.
Driving home for Christmas.
Driving home for Christmas. Yeah, that works pretty well. Now the last thing I want to show you is that you can also use it in BASIC. You can also use it in assembler, but the basic example is of course much simpler. So if we do something like this, say hello and welcome to Turrican. Now before we give it another say command, we need to wait until the buffer is empty again. So for that we do if sp percentage is smaller than 256, which is empty, then go to 20. Just keep going to 20 until the buffer is 256 again. There we go. Hello and welcome to Turrican. Be my guest. Another day, another cry, but remember, shoot or die. Let's test this. It'll pronounce everything horribly, but you get the idea.
Hello and welcome to Turrican. Be my guest. Another day, another cry, but remember, shoot or die.
Very awesome. If you want to stop using the Currah Speech, you type the word bye. And now the say command won't work anymore. Syntax error. This was a close look at the Currah Speech 64, a speech synthesizer that lets your Commodore 64 speak, and it works really well. It's actually quite sophisticated, really cool cartridge. I'll put a link in the description where you can get a Wimaxit screen. I really love these. Very cool screen. And for now, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. That helps the channel out a lot. Thank you if you are a patron, and I hope to see you next time on the Retro Game Couch.